Hello, everybody. Sorry about being late. Part of the job when you are a nurse, sometimes you get emergency calls at the end of the shift. So, about 20 minutes before I was getting off work, I had an emergency admission to do, and then got to her house, and she was just released from the hospital, and she had no heat. So, I am frozen. She's frozen. We did get the heat on. So she'll be doing good. So my name is Laura. This is Healthy Carnivore, and I'm going to go over tonight. If you're able to do keto or carnivore or ketovore without a gallbladder. So worked with several people. I have my gallbladder, but I've worked with several clients that do not have a gallbladder or who have had gastric bypass. And we'll kind of go over two of those things. Okay. So, even without a gallbladder, you can do this diet. The gallbladder is just like a little muscle pouch that holds the bile that the liver makes. So hi Cat, hi Grace. Yeah, it was a little crazy. But that bile squirts out, and that is what you need to break down fats and protein. None of that is used in breaking down carbohydrates. So if you eat a high carbohydrate diet, you end up with sludge that then turns into stones. So eat your fat and eat your protein and forget the carbs. So let's see. So the things that I would say if you are trying to start any of these high fat, high protein, lower carb diets, and you do not have a gallbladder, I'm going to tell you the things that I have worked with people, the steps that we have used for them. So the first thing is you want to introduce fats gradually, and I would start with cold fats. So like butter out of a fridge. If you're going to do like ribeye fat or tallow, don't cook it, or if you do cook it, put it in the refrigerator and get it cold before you eat it. Rendered fat, that is a liquid fat, is going to be a little bit harder on you in the beginning until you can transition this. You want to start with very small amounts of fat. So when you say that, like if you're switching to this, I'd say 3 to 4 pats of butter with a meal is what I would do. And I would do it first, and then I would do the rest of the meal. You want to start out without a gallbladder. You want to start out eating smaller, more frequent meals. So more of like a 3 meal a day. This will help your body get used to breaking down those fats and using that bile. Once you do that, that really helps the gallbladder. That muscle will go from floppy to right back to what it should have been the whole time. And it's not really a long process. Most of the people I've worked with, you know, 6 weeks at the most, I think is what I've had people, and that's at the most, you know. Um, Easier to digest fats are going to be like your butter, your ghee, MCT oil. They don't take quite as much bile to digest. I will tell you though, with MCT oil, start minimal, like a half a teaspoon, up to a teaspoon and a half. If you go in hog wild, I will promise you, I did this myself. I made bulletproof coffee one time, and I used the 2 tablespoons of MCT oil that everybody said, that's how you make bulletproof coffee. And I drank it. And let's just say, thank you, baby Jesus, that it was my day off because I could not leave the house and I was in my bathroom. So don't do that to yourself. Kat said after she had her gallbladder removed, she had diarrhea every single day for 15 years. Once I went ketovore, it gradually got better. Now it rarely happens. That's good. Yeah, the thing is your liver will produce the bile regardless. It's just that it's a little bit longer process to get it to where it needs to go to like the small intestine because it doesn't have that pathway that it used to have, but it still will get there. It's just a little slower. Some of the things that I have worked with people, and I did this in the beginning because, like, if I cooked hamburger and I had like that liquid fat, I could not eat that. I had to let it get cold. If I would eat it while it was still liquidy, it'd go right through me. And because I did have gallbladder trouble back in the day, of course, I did keto for 28 years, so I did a lot of stuff to my gallbladder that were not my body cannot handle carbs, even vegetable carbs. I know some people can. My body sees a vegetable carb the same as a white Wonder Bread carb. It does not differentiate. So I used ox bile salts. And back when I first did that, I had to get them at like a health food store. Now I think you can find them just about everywhere. I think Dr. Berg has a brand. Um, I'm trying to think who else. I've seen another brand that were pretty good. So that was be something you could take that right before you were getting ready to have a meal with that. The other thing is no fluids. I would really recommend stopping drinking any water or liquid and half an hour to an hour before that meal and at least an hour after that meal. Let all the enzymes and the stomach acids do their job. That is the best thing is don't dilute those down. Um, but and it's not food time and you've hit those windows, you do want to stay hydrated because that will help with the digestion once it gets past the stomach. Um, you want to monitor how your body responds. And if you are having severe trouble, I would reach out and work with a healthcare practitioner that's knowledgeable in this or a person on YouTube that has been doing this for a while, or other people that don't have a gallbladder that have been doing this. I can't remember if Kelly Hogan has one, but I do know for sure Carrie Mann said he does not. And I'm sure there's multiple other ones, but I know he definitely does not. You can follow the carnivore diet also after having gastric bypass or gastric sleeve. Several people have had that. So if you know, I think Leah Renee, um, she's done that. And then I think Adrian K. Adrian Glenn Cahill, I think is her name. Yeah. She, I believe, also had that sleeve done. So this can be done. What you have to do with those, a lot of times, I watched a video actually this morning on Dave Mack, and it was a lady from, I think she was from Western Australia, and she was talking about she had had that gastric sleeve done and that she has to do like 3 meals a day. She doesn't do the OMAD, 2MAD. She does 3 meals a day, and with her smaller stomach, that's really the only way she can get in all the fat and the protein that she needs. But there again, you have taken a portion of the stomach and a portion of the small intestine. And a lot of times they take the gallbladder then as well. Not all, but some surgeons will just go ahead and take it all. And sometimes while they're at it, they're like, who needs an appendix? Let's just take it all. But when that is taken out of there, that's the areas where the bile goes into that small intestine right there, and that's kind of where the magic happens. And so you kind of avert that when you have that removed, but it can be done. You just want to be careful. So what they have said is that they transition slowly. They start with leaner meats. They start with more like ground beef, chicken, and fish, and they just kind of slowly titrate that up. um, Hello, Karen. They just try to bring that up. They focus more on the protein to begin with. And just like with any bariatric type surgery, you want to really focus on the protein. Protein is definitely a priority with any of those. Anybody that's had those, they'll tell you that that is something they're always told is they have to emphasize protein. It really does support our healing and it supports muscle maintenance. Eating smaller portions, your stomach size is reduced. You'll need to eat smaller, more frequent meals, choosing nutrient dense options like eggs, liver, and fatty fish. Now, if you're like me and you don't like the taste of liver, you can get liver and grind it and mix it in with like 10 pounds of hamburger, do like 1 pound of beef liver, calf liver, or deer liver. So I have deer liver. Well, I did, but I ground it up and I did my deer this yesterday. So, but I ground that up into the meat and you can't taste it and you can't smell it even when you're cooking, because that's my thing. I was like, if I can smell it, I'm not eating it. But I was fine. The other thing is with this, and I find this is true for myself because every type of job I've done, whether it was factory working, whether it was nursing, whatever job I have done, it's always like somebody's calling you out of lunch. It's like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And so I was never somebody that chewed my food very well. It was like two chews and down the hatch. That's another thing, that whether you have a gallbladder or not, or if you've had this bypass, you want to really try to chew the food and get it broke down, so that it's easier on the stomach. Let's see. Karen said, I got lucky with my gallbladder. My surgeon said your gallbladder is working at 75 to 80%. It's working, no surgery. Oh, that's good. Um, I had a gallbladder attack in like 2000 and I'm trying to think if I was a nurse yet. I don't think I was. So it would have been like 2000 and 2001. Yeah, 2001. And they did want to rip mine out. They were like, we can get you set up right now. I went through the emergency room at the hospital that I ended up working at later. And they're communists. But anyway, um, and I did everything. I was like, I was like, let's do antibiotics. I had pancreatitis along with it. And of course, then they were like, well, you have to quit drinking alcohol. And I'm like, pretty easy to do. I don't drink any at all. And they're like, how many do you drink a day? And I'm like, none. You're welcome to draw my blood, check my urine. I don't care what you do. I don't. Um, but that's what they assumed. And I'm like, it's probably due to the gallbladder. And then when I went to nursing school, I'm like, absolutely, that was caused by the gallbladder, is that it can throw off the pancreas, but whatever. But I was able to hold on to mine. I just kind of got bitchy and just said, unless it's gangrene, it's fixable, and I would like to keep it. I've already had enough body parts pulled out of me. So um, I said, we're going to keep it. And I have. And if you guys could see how much fat I eat a day, it is absolutely mind boggling. Even though I've been carnivore for 5.5 years, if you told me 2.5 years ago that I would be eating the amount of fat that I eat now, I'd have been like, there is no way. I can't do it. There is no way. And now I can't go a day without having that amount of fat. I just love it. Um, So you want to monitor your fat intake when you've had gastric bypass of any type. You want to, start very slow and increase. Like I said, you want to do the easy, digestible ones like butter, MCT oil, things like that. And I would do them cold. MCT oil isn't going to matter because at room temperature, it's liquid. But the butter, I absolutely would do cold right out of the fridge. And the same with like ribeye fat or beef trimming or suet, any of that, duck fat, I would do the same thing. I am so cold. I'm trying to like that poor lady's house. I think it was only like 50 degrees inside her house when we got her in there. Um, and thank God her son was there. I was like, I can go down and try to work on the um her heater. She just needed the pilot light lit and she had no light downstairs. And luckily her son showed up and he was like, I got it. And I was like, yes, you do. I will let you do that. Um, the other thing is you want to stay hydrated. You want to sip water throughout the day, but you don't want to do that around your feeding window. Okay. You want to really be careful with that. Hey Lisa, how are you? Um, but you definitely, like I said, just try to avoid the food times when you're doing that. Just because of the stomach acids, your enzymes and things like that. You don't want to, knock those down and weaken them so that they can do the job they're supposed to do. Um, some of the supplements that you may need after gastric bypass, and this is not a forever thing. I know a lot of these people who had gastric bypass 10, 15, 20 years ago, kind of when it was first coming up, um, and no longer need to do that are doing carnivore, but they do implement a lot of liver and kidney and stuff like that. So some of the supplements you may need would be different vitamins, like you won't need B vitamin if you're doing enough ruminant red meat. You will get plenty from that. Now, when you have gastric bypass of any sort and they take that portion of that lower stomach, you do have some trouble with B12 because that's an intrinsic factor, and so you may have trouble with that. Some people do have to do methylated B12. Okay. So you may want to check into that. As for minerals, I think if you're eating um, carnivore, keto, or ketovore, I think you're, especially if you grow your own vegetables like we have, in our backyard, although the tomatoes are frozen now. Um, you're going to get that in your diet. So I don't think I would worry much about that. Electrolytes are a big deal. You can do Soleil water. You can do the different packets. They have like the raw, has no flavor. It's just the electrolytes. Some people can do the flavor packets and they don't affect them at all. I think Element Tea makes some salty, which is the same people that make keto chow. Theirs are very good. When I was at Keto Palooza, I got a 30 pack, pouch of them, and I got all the different flavors and a ton of raw. I did about 20 raw, and then the rest I was like, throw some flavored ones in there. And the Coco Loco is really good. Like, it's really good. But it does have stevia in it. So I'm very careful. I do that about once a month as a treat, as it's almost like hot chocolate. I heat up my water and then put it in there, and we'll do that like a hot chocolate. I cannot do those every single day with the stevia in it. It does really mess up my stomach. So let's see. Karen says, I never drink water while eating. Only time I do is when I have a hard time swallowing chicken. Yeah, chicken's a little dry, even dark chicken. Leah, so you said you should eat butter cold. What about putting butter in your coffee? Yeah, I mean, you can put butter in your coffee, especially once you're fat adapted. But I think when it's liquefied, especially in the beginning, sometimes you can have what they call like a dumping syndrome, where you drink it and you're like, "Ooh," and it feels like a bowling ball has like hit the bottom of your stomach, and then you're in the bathroom. If you have any loose stools or diarrhea, you're not breaking down the fat, and that's kind of a clue. And so I really would do the cold if you're having any trouble like that. Let's see. Karen says half a packet of Coco Loco and coffee every morning. Oh, really? Yeah. I can imagine that would be really good. Stevia, even the stevia I grow, if I do too much of that, it really brings back my sugar cravings. Um, and I have to be careful with some of the other sweeteners. I haven't tried allulose, but some of the other ones, just because they can be a little hard on the gut bacteria. So I'm very cautious of doing much of those. But I will say that I do know that the Salty brand does not have any maltodextrin in their flavored packets. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody else's packets, just that these do not have maltodextrin. I know that for a fact. So, um, let's see. Da-da. The main thing too with all of this is that you really want to listen to your body. You want to pay attention to the fullness cues. And I'm not sure about you guys, but that was something I could eat right through those previous to this. Like, I can remember one of the last meals I had was in West Point, Iowa, and they had this big pizzeria, and it was like a week before Thanksgiving, and I ate a whole large pizza by myself. I can't even imagine doing that now, but I could just do it because I just mindfully kept eating, and I ate very fast. That's another thing. So I never got to that point where that sensor kind of goes off and says, hey, the GLP-1, that never kicked that in for me because I ate so fast. Um, but I will say that at the further I get into carnivore, the more, I did a lot of fasting in the beginning, which I'm not going to do now. I will do an occasional 1 or 2 day. If I'm sick, I might do a 3 day just to really boost my immune system and kind of help that. But I'm not going to do it because I think it's really hard on a lot of ladies' hormones. And I don't want to do that. I'm already in menopause. I don't need to make it any worse on myself. So, um, Lisa, do you know of a at-home vitamin D test? I mm, I do not know of any vitamin D I mean, there are vitamin D tests that could be done at home. I don't know any companies that are doing those. You want to do the hydroxy 25D. Um, some life insurance companies, like if you're getting life insurance, they will draw labs and you can kind of say, hey, you want to draw that while you're here? And sometimes they will. Um, some of your online doctors like Rivero, I know there's some more that are out there and about that have doctors that can, work in all 50 states online. You might be able to do something like that and see about that. Because, yeah, vitamin D is an important test for you to kind of know where you're sitting at. Um, like mine was as low as 13. I've seen lower than that, which is bad. I mean, that's Ricketts level. And now I think my last one was 90 maybe. And I'd like to see it get up to like 120, 130. But I think as long as I keep doing the K2, D3 and eating the meats and stuff, I think it'll get there. It's just going to take a little time. So, um, another thing is as you're increasing your fats and doing this, whether you've had the gastric bypass, sleeve, whether you just don't have a gallbladder, is as you do this longer, you will be able to do like baby steps where if you're going to try to venture to more of a liquidy fat to see how you're doing, make it on a day where you're going to be home close to a bathroom, just in case. And some people who have constipation, they can bump up the fat on purpose and the liquid fat to try to help you know, um, get rid of constipation. I don't have any of those troubles. As soon as I gave up vegetables, I'm one of those people that I cannot tolerate uh, fiber at all. Now, my husband, 100% the opposite. If we didn't have a garden and he couldn't eat his vegetables, he would just as soon curl up and die in the corner because he does not believe he would ever be able to poop again. I don't know because we'll never know because he's never not going to eat them. So that's okay. And he's healthy. So as long as he's feeling good, looking good, that's fine. Um, Another thing, and I'm not sure, maybe Leah would be able to speak to this because I know that she did do the gastric, is the bariatric surgeons, I'm not sure of the older style ones, but I would think that the newer ones would be a little more up on this. And maybe if they have dietitians that work with um, people, after they've had bypass, if they're doing this. But you can always go onto YouTube and just type in, doctors talking gastric, sleeve, and carnivore diet, or issues with fat and gastric bypass, any kinds of things like that. And everything's going to come up. Probably a lot of Dr. Barry. I think I've heard him talk about a couple of these. Um, so I'm going to ask if you guys have any questions for tonight. I was so cold. I feel like I talked really fast, but I was frozen. Let's see. Karen says, my husband eats his veggie still too, meat heavy, meal otherwise. Yeah, my husband's definitely meat heavy and higher fat. He's cooking everything in tallow or bacon grease, even fish, turkey, any of that. Like deep fat fried turkey is in tallow. And he's slowly trickling off of like the Oreos and the junk like that. He's been reading, I caught him reading the ingredients the other day, and I was like, what's in there? And he goes, nothing good. And I was like, I know. So, but that's okay. Grace says, I have a gallbladder. But about once a year, I tried to do a liver cleanse. Lots of gallstones come out. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Another way of getting rid of those stones is to increase your fat. That will help that because just think of those stones as like a big shooter marble. And as you use bile, it's going to just strip away at that and get it smaller and smaller and smaller until you can pass it. Um, but the more you do, the more of that. And yes, the liver cleanses can do that. My stepdad, he had kidney stones and gallstones. And this was a horrible thing to drink, but it worked. And he did olive oil, lemon juice, and apple cider vinegar. And he did that every day. And I mean, a glass, like 2 shot glasses worth. And he would just and got rid of them all. I mean, everything cleared out. They did an ultrasound because he had to wait 6 weeks to get the ultrasound done. And I was like, hey, while you're waiting, because the x-ray, they could see how many he had already. It's just ultrasound's going to give you a better picture. I was like, why don't we try this natural and let's try that first. And by the time he got down there and they did the ultrasound, he had one teeny tiny baby one. And they're like, well, you'll pass that no problem because that's nothing. And he already had dilated sphincter from all the bigger stones coming through. So he was fine. He passed no problem. So that was good for him. And he kind of learned to uh to do a little bit more natural stuff. So I'm going to talk about next week's. I'm going to talk about the next 2 weeks. Okay. Um, Kat says, I don't think it's possible to pass gallstones. It is possible to pass gallstones. I promise you, I've seen it. They have to get extremely broke down. It's no different than when they go in there and they break those up and you pass them. It's the same thing. It's just you have to get them, and it depends how large. Now, I have seen a gentleman down at the hospital I worked at. I mean, he had a gallstone that was massive. It looked like those little oranges that you can get, those teeny tiny ones. There was no way he was ever going to be able to pass that. And they had to go in and break that up. And then that allowed him, but even some of the pieces that he come out, they were pretty good size. I'd say they were bigger than like my dad's stones. Um, some of them I think were like 3 and 4 millimeter, and he passed them. And they were gallstones because they were gallstones. Um, so next week, I'm going to go over, um, if you're experiencing weight stalls on carnivore, it might be some times to change the approach. And I'm going to give you some strategies to try to help break through plateaus. Um, and we'll go over that even more next week. Is that sometimes a plateau is not a real plateau because sometimes it's our bodies are trying to heal and they're going to hold on to everything until they kind of get to that next phase of healing. And some people it's 6 months to a year that they kind of are in that stall. um, and there's multiple things we can do to kind of play with that and see if we can get those knocked down. And then the following week, one of our watchers, B, um, she asked me to go over fasting and some things that you can do to help lose some of that loose skin that you end up getting when you lose weight. Um, Karen says, me, I have been stalled for 2 years. Yeah. So there we'll definitely go over. So have some good questions for next Monday. Um, Throw them out there at me, and we'll see what we can come up with. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had no changes at all for well over a year. And really what really bumped mine is was adding the extra fat. I mean, it goes against everything we've learned like through the 90s, all not good information. Kat says, I hate fasting. I know, if if I have like a big surgery coming up, I force myself to fast because it is so good for you. Um, If I feel sick, like I'm starting to get a cold, or if I'm getting like upper respiratory, or I get sinus infections, which I've done really well, I have to say, I did the oregano, I did my elderberry tincture. Oh, and then I did the garlic honey. Ugh, and this one's from April, but that's fermented garlic honey because I had something in my throat. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's gone. Well, there went that. I'll grab that in a little bit. Anyway, but it's so much better. I was able to not have to go on an antibiotic and not have to take any kind of medical treatment. So yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so um I only fast when I really feel like I need to. And I never was somebody that fasted and felt like, hey, I lost 5 pounds because I never did. If I fasted even like the 7 days prior to my surgery, I did a surgery and then fasted another 7 days. I think I lost like 1 or 2 pounds. And of course, that's just water. It really didn't do anything for weight loss, but it did help me heal faster because I had a lot of surgery, which, talking about this skin issue and fasting, next week or in 2 weeks, I'll talk about that as well as to why I had such a major surgery and what that was all about. So, anyway, I am going to get packages made up. I have orders to go out in the morning, so I'm going to get off of here and do that. Um, I did eat 2 meals today, so we'll see. I don't think I'm going to have a third one. I'm not really hungry at all, so I'm trying to just listen to my body saying, "Yep, it's time to eat." And I'm also eating when my body says. So I used to be somebody who would fast in the morning, like all night and fast in the morning and not eat till like 1 or 2 in the afternoon and then again at like 5 and be done. Um, and now I've just been paying attention. Some days I do that. Some days I wake up and I would do my workouts and I'm like, nope, I need a hamburger and some ribeye fat. So I just kind of play it by ear and do whatever my body kind of says to do. I kind of learned that our bodies are definitely smarter than most of the doctors that we deal with. Not all, we've got some really good ones. We're very fortunate. And I do think uh, hopefully we'll have some positive improvements in the food regulations. I'm not a big fan of a lot of regulations, but I think we need to quit poisoning our children. So hopefully that will be coming. So I appreciate you guys for being here. I apologize for it being late. Um, but I was glad to get this lady admitted and get the help in the home that she needed. She was very thankful. Cute little 88-year-old. She ain't even four. I don't think she's 4'10", little bitty thing. So anyway, so I do appreciate you guys waiting on me. So I will plan on seeing you guys next week, next Monday. And I may do a video this week. Deer season's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm off Wednesday, but I have some people coming by that want to see all my products, smell them, taste them, touch them, whatever, and they want to come by. So I'm going to do that. That's going to be kind of neat because most of the stuff I do is selling it online, but these people are all local and they've been hearing, word of mouth. And so they're like, "Can we come by?" And I was like, "Sure." So I'm going to get that all set up. So, but maybe I'll do a live video after that and I'll kind of let you guys know what all happened. You're welcome, Grace. Thank you. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, all of you guys, for checking in. And I will see you guys next week. So, as I always say, meet, heat, eat, and repeat.